The Return of the Bard. The morning broke soft and gold over Lady Marlene's estate, the fields still jeweled with dew. From the paddock came the steady rhythm of hooves and the low murmur of two boys trying, failing, and trying again. Kristoff sat stiff-backed on a bay gelding, his fingers white around the reins. Beside him, on a taller stallion, rode Matthias, calm, steady, every movement of horse and rider in harmony. "Not like that," Matthias said, voice even. "Watch my hands. Firm, but not tight. If you choke the reins, he fights you. Give him a lane to breathe." He guided his stallion into a smooth circle, barely moving his wrists as the horse obeyed. Kristoff swallowed. "Firm, not tight." He exhaled, loosening his grip a fraction. "Good. Now your legs. Don't clamp, guide." Matthias nudged his own mount with the gentlest touch. "Think forward from your knees, not your heels. Like you and the horse share the same thought." Kristoff tried again. The bay tossed his head once, then, almost grudgingly, fell into a workable trot. Kristoff wobbled, nearly lost it, then found the rhythm, like stepping onto a moving boat. He laughed under his breath. "I think I get it." "You do," Matthias said, and the faintest smile touched the corners of his mouth. Again. They practiced through the morning, circles and straight lines, halts and starts, breathing on the downbeat and counting strides under their breath. Every few minutes Kristoff slipped, fumbled, recovered. Every time, Matthias corrected without scolding, patient in the way of someone who had decided to become a shield for others. By noon, the bay's ears pricked instead of pinned. By early afternoon, Kristoff could ride a clean, slow circle, without bouncing like a sack of grain. When the gelding halted on a light cue, the boy's grin broke wide and helpless. "I did it!" "You did," Matthias said, deadpan, then ruined his stoic act with a small, proud nod. Again. Kristoff laughed and obeyed. Sir Calder had barred him from the day's drills, 1 week to master the saddle, or leave the yard for good. The sting of those words still burned, but here, beneath patient instruction, and a sky that seemed to approve, the hurt turned into fuel. They rode until the sun began to tip west, and the shadows of the stable rails stretched like long, dark fingers across the dirt. At King Francis's castle, the afternoon buzzed with courtly hum, velvet sleeves, careful smiles, polished shoes on polished stone. Lady Marlene stood among nobles who depended on her grace to smooth the teeth of politics. Her braid lay over one shoulder, her eyes bright and warm as hearthlight. A soft voice at her side, "Lady Marlene?" She turned. "Luma, dear." "Of course." "Forgive the interruption," Luma said, dipping her head. Smudges of graphite edged her fingers. A leather apron brushed her knees. "Master Elric asks if you might spare a moment." "In the workshop." "Lead on," Lady Marlene said, and excused herself with a word that ended 3 quiet quarrels at once. They crossed to the royal workshop, where the air smelled of oil, ink, hot metal, and ideas. Master Elric hunched over a desk, lines of a sleek new hull racing from his quill. A dozen discarded drafts crumpled on the floor like shedskins. Luma knocked lightly. "Master." Elric glanced up, hair awry, goggles askew, beard smudged with soot. Come in, come in." "Ah, my lady." He stood too fast, scattering papers, then scrambled to gather them with the flustered dignity of a genius who will never quite conquer his own hands. "Thank you for coming. Please sit. I won't keep you long." Lady Marlene smiled and took the chair he offered. Elric reached under the bench and brought forth a small chest, iron-banded and heavy. He set it gently on the table and opened the lid. Gold winked inside like a bowl of trapped sunlight. "My lady," he said, voice softening, "when I was a poor madman with a flying ship that couldn't decide whether it was a ship or a catastrophe, you paid for my follies. Repairs, food, materials, more repairs." He huffed a laugh. "You believed when I doubted. I've kept account of every coin. Here is all you ever gave returned doubled." Lady Marlene watched the light on the gold, then closed the lid with a kind hand. "Elric?" she said gently. "No." He blinked. "No." It was a gift, she said, not a debt. You have saved this realm's sons and daughters. You gave us a miracle. Somewhere, your late wife is smiling at the stubborn, brilliant man she loved. That is payment enough. Elric's eyes shone suddenly, and he coughed to hide it. You will make an old fool leak at the eyes, my lady. He took a breath, fought for composure, lost, and smiled anyway. If you will not take gold, then take this my ship, my workshops, my hands. For life. Wherever you wish to go, whenever you wish it, you have wings. Lady Marlene's smile deepened. If you insist, I accept. For now I have nowhere to fly. But knowing I could, her eyes warmed, means more than you think. Then it's settled, Elric declared, slapping the bench and making 3 springs, hop, and a flask wobble. Luma lunged and caught it, and he shot her a grateful look. At your word always, my lady. She rose and squeezed his forearm with the familiarity of old friendship. At ours, Elric. Luma, watching them, felt a quiet pride uncurl in her chest at the goodness that could exist between power and genius, at the simple decency of gratitude accepted and refused in the same breath. By late afternoon, the sun poured molten through the western gate and painted the road beyond in gold. There, beneath the ramparts, Luma walked slowly with Lord Tarek, the scholar in the green robe. The noise of the city drifted like a tide beyond the walls. Miss Luma, Tariq said softly, I will be leaving the realm soon. She stopped, surprise softening her face. So soon? My studies here are complete, he said. Peace grows between our peoples. I must cross to new shores, learn what waits there. But he searched her face. I will return, when I may. I will miss you, Tariq, she said. No fidget, no pretense, just truth. And I you, he answered. A dozen other words crowded his tongue and would not become breath. He opened his mouth. A familiar chord of a lute drifted on the wind. Luma turned. A figure crested the rise, a cloak travel-stained, hair sun-browned and tousled. A lute slung across his back, eyes bright with the kind of hope that survives long roads. Bar! Bar! Luma whispered, and then she was running. He barely had time to drop the lute before she collided with him, arms tight, laughter and tears mixing as if they were the same thing. Oh, Bar, I missed you so much. I'm sorry I left, he murmured into her hair. My old home needed me. But no more. This he drew back to look at her. This is my home now. They kissed, and the dust motes spun in a slow golden dance. Tariq stood very still. Then he straightened, tucking whatever broke inside him behind a courteous smile, and approached with palms open. Miss Luma, he said gently, is this your lover? Luma wiped her eyes and nodded, radiant and a little shy. Yes. This is Bar, a traveling bard. Bar bowed, earnest. My lord, forgive my boldness. Thank you for the kindness you have shown to the one I love. Tariq placed his hand over his heart and returned the bow. The pleasure is mine. I'm glad you have found each other again. Luma's eyes flicked to his, a worried question in them. He pretended not to see it, kindness, to spare her guilt. I have work in the library, he said lightly. I will leave you to your joy. He turned and walked toward the gates, shoulders square, steps measured. Luma watched him go, the warmth in her chest folded around a small, aching thread of sorrow. The courtyard noise faded behind Tariq as he crossed into the garden walk. Vines clung to warm stone, a fountain whispered. He paused in a patch of sunlight and pressed his palm to the green of his robe, as if to quiet the ache beneath. She is happy, he murmured. That is enough. That must be enough. A single tear slipped free before he could stop it. He brushed it away and lifted his gaze to the paling sky. "O Lord," he whispered, "grant me strength. Grant me patience. Do not let envy darken what is good. Teach me to rejoice in her joy, even if it is not mine." The breeze shifted, and from far off came a bright thread of laughter, hers. He closed his eyes, letting it pass through him like sunlight through leaves, and breathed. When he opened them again, the kind, composed scholar had returned to his face. He straightened his shoulders and walked on, a private wound tucked where no one would see, carried with the same quiet dignity with which he carried everything.